Welcome to Go Get Great, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm your host, Brittany, owner of Brittany Miller Socials and mother of 3. Go Get Great is all about helping you make life and business work together. You'll learn about the fumbles that helped get me and my guests to where we are today so you don't have to make them. So come join the journey with Go Get Great. Welcome back to another episode of the Go Get Great podcast. I'm flying solo today, and I thought that it was about time that we talk about repurposing your content. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we could talk about this. Today, I want to talk about it in the sense of, should you be using the content you're already creating and putting it up on multiple social media platforms? So there's reason this kind of came to mind for me is because I follow a few different Pinterest managers. You guys know that I've been talking about adding Pinterest to my marketing mix this year. So I'm on a few different email lists for Pinterest experts. And I got an email from one of them yesterday, and it was announcing a new change that Pinterest has made. So a disclaimer, I'm not a Pinterest expert in any means. I am just a Pinterest user as a business owner. So I'm talking about Pinterest briefly just to preface why I'm talking about this, but then we're going to talk about how this applies to things like Facebook, Instagram, etc. Pinterest previously offered a feature where it would let you automatically post the content from Instagram directly to Pinterest so that you didn't have to create pins separately. So this would be very similar to how Instagram automatically posts your content to Facebook. So it was a feature that was available for a while, and then Pinterest took it away, and now Pinterest has brought it back. So when I was reading this email, a lot of the points that she was talking about whether you should or shouldn't do it, spoiler alert, she says you shouldn't, really got me thinking about opinions that I have personally about content repurposing as a business owner and as advice that I give my clients. So that's what we're going to dive into today. I was reading in the email, she says that you really shouldn't be using your Instagram content and having it go directly to Pinterest. And a lot of the points that she brought up in this email are really valid and solidify some of the things that I've been thinking and feeling for a while, and advice that I've kind of stopped giving clients. So if you met me a couple years ago, my advice was, if you're creating the content, put it on as many platforms as you can because you've already created it. And you might as well use it as many ways as you can to connect with different people, because different people are on different platforms. So it's not like your audience is seeing the same content from you in multiple places. Now, it is solid advice and it does make sense to a point, but there is a certain point in your business where you really need to stop doing that. And I feel like I'm kind of reaching that point in my business, which is why I have a different marketing strategy for Pinterest than what I have for Instagram/Facebook. And I think that when you first get started, it's totally okay to repurpose your content in that manner, because you do not have time to have a customized marketing plan for each individual platforms that's tailored to its specific, do's and don'ts. So like for me, I still repurpose my content sometimes when I remember to TikTok and LinkedIn and YouTube, but primarily I picked one platform, which I also recommend, and you create your content specifically for that platform for probably the first, I would say, 1 to 3 years that you're in business. Once you're kind of over the 3-year mark, you've probably got a bit of an established follower base on that one platform. You've hopefully got your email list up and going a little bit. So you have some more consistent income coming in the door. And then you can diversify your marketing portfolio and then have a separate marketing plan for 2 different social media platforms. So for me, that's Instagram and that's Pinterest. But like I said, I'm in my 3rd year of business now, and this is not something that I physically could have, even if I wanted to, tackle before this, because there were just too many other things I needed to get in place in my business. I needed my website solid. I needed some lead magnets, some courses, more like masterclasses, but you know what I mean? You're busy building the bulk of your business, and you can really only focus your time, energy, and attention on growing one social media platform. And maybe even doing this at my 3rd year in business is a little bit too soon for me. Maybe I should still be continuing to focus exclusively on Instagram and exclusively on growing my email list, which is truthfully the bigger priority. But I feel like Pinterest is going to lead into email list growth. So I'm trying it. We're seeing how it goes. So if you're in your first 1 to 3 years, you probably don't even really need to be on Pinterest. Pinterest is a little bit of a different beast. It's technically not even a social media platform. It's a search engine like Google. So it's very different. If you want to automatically post your Instagram content to Pinterest, you can, but I really can't foresee from my own personal use experience, you getting results like any, not even great results, just like any results from doing that. You might get some views, but there's a lot of key things that you're not doing by not exclusively creating content for Pinterest. And that's what she mentioned in the email. So the pins are not the right size, or your Instagram posts are not the correct pin size. So the platform's not going to like push them out to a lot of people because it's not really the right type of content. You're not optimizing your captions for SEO, and it is an SEO platform like Google. So that's something that, is not working. So you're putting this stuff up there and it's probably not going to get seen by anyone. And you're also not directing people back to your website, which is the whole purpose of Pinterest. It's supposed to drive traffic to your website and help you grow your email list. So when people see this post that you've shared from Instagram to Pinterest automatically, it's going to drive them back to Instagram. So it's not taking them to your website. You're not getting the additional website traffic. They're not going to end up on your email list. And people that are on Pinterest may not be Instagram users, so they may not ever actually even get to fully see that piece of content that you've created that you've automatically shared. So yes, you're creating it anyway. If you put it up on Pinterest and someone does happen to come back and follow you, then that's awesome. But there's a lot of things that you're not doing properly for it to really result in anything specific. So that brings us back to the question of, should we be repurposing our content on multiple platforms? And like I said, in your first 1 to 3 years in business, just go for it. Just kind of put some stuff out there if you want to, see what it does. But then beyond that, like I mentioned, you do kind of need a customized strategy because each individual social media platform has their do's and don'ts, and they don't like playing well with the rules and the do's and don'ts of the other content platforms. So Instagram and Facebook are the exception because they're owned by the same people and they have similar things. You can post a static image or a carousel post or even a reel on Facebook and Instagram, and you're probably going to get pretty similar results. My results are much better on Instagram because I focus more on growing my following there than I have on Facebook. I have significantly few followers and I get basically zero engagement on Facebook. But the content still works. You can still use hashtags. The caption writing is the same. The visual content in terms of catching people's attention is still the same. So that way the platforms are very compatible for sharing your content. Now, that being said, if you wanted to take your Instagram post and post it on LinkedIn, you're going to get probably the same results that you would by putting it up on Pinterest. So your static images would actually do quite well. How you write your captions might be fine. LinkedIn doesn't use hashtags necessarily in the same way that Instagram does. So having the hashtags in your caption aren't really helping you there. And also there's no automatic feature. So you're going to do this extra layer of work. You're going to spend extra time putting your visual and your caption into a LinkedIn post that may or not even be seen by anyone because you're not playing with the algorithm. LinkedIn really likes more long form content, like blog posts and things like that. So your little quick video that you did a tutorial on and you wrote a funny caption with some hashtags that you'd put up on Instagram isn't going to translate the same way on LinkedIn. So pros and cons to doing this. And you get a similar result with TikTok too, truthfully. So TikTok and Instagram both love video content. So if you're exclusively creating reels on Instagram, then repurposing that content for TikTok might not be a bad idea. But how you write those captions and what hashtags you use and the trending audio, totally different. A lot of people argue that TikTok trends emerged before Instagram trends. So if you're following an Instagram trend and then you try and repost it on TikTok, you've actually missed the boat on that. So it would be better if you went kind of in reverse and you took your TikTok content and the popular things and trending things on TikTok and then put it up on Instagram. Then you're kind of ahead of the curve and you might get better results that way, but it doesn't necessarily work well in advance. Now, personally, like I said, I don't use TikTok very much. If I remember, I'll try and reshare my real content on TikTok just because some of it is less trendy. So I try not to pick things that have trending audio clips because what is available in the Instagram music library may not be available in the TikTok music library. And then, like lip sync videos and things like that don't translate because the audio you can't use and then it just looks weird. It just looks weird. There's no way around it. But any videos that I'm doing, that I'm creating, that are specifically educational, meaning I'm talking to the camera, I'm teaching something. So like my podcast clips, I'll put those up because it doesn't really matter when that happens. It's still relevant because it's about the topic of my podcast. It doesn't matter if the hashtags aren't trending anymore or if the audio clip isn't available because it's all custom, unique to me and my business, or in this case, my specific podcast episode. So there are things that you can repurpose from Instagram to TikTok, but you need to kind of come at it from that eyes wide open perspective of, is this really worth my time? Because again, it doesn't have that auto post feature. So you have to manually upload the video, add the audio if it's not original audio with your talking, put the caption back in, double check that everything works well, and then post it again that way. So is the time you're investing in doing that actually yielding you any good results? So whether that takes you, 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes to do, are you getting results from it? So personally, I haven't had the most success with TikTok, but I also haven't done it consistently. I haven't gone in with a specific strategy and the consistency again to see if it would work, because I got started on Instagram. I really like Instagram. I'm comfortable with Instagram. TikTok seems to be a hot mess sometimes. It's like always in the news for something. And personally, I'm not convinced that TikTok's going to be sticking around long term. So I don't really feel the need to invest my time or energy in that. But that's just my personal opinion on the matter. And again, it may be slightly biased because I like Instagram. Lost my train of thought again. That being said, if you're using Instagram and you want to put your content up on TikTok, if you are pretty much creating graphics or carousel posts, you can physically put them there. They're probably not going to perform well because it is designed to be a video-based platform. So again, is it really worth your time and energy to do that? If you're creating static posts, then LinkedIn might be better. Or again, Instagram and Facebook, we kind of already talked about. You can't even use YouTube for stuff like that. Do I put my podcasts up on YouTube, my podcast clips? I have not lately. I should start doing that again. So repurposing content is a great idea if it works well and makes sense for your business. And again, a lot of this comes back to what platform is your target audience actually on. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this today because I've talked about it in several other episodes, which I'll link in the show notes for you if you haven't listened to them. But I don't want to see small business owners going, okay, well, I've created this piece of content. I need to use it in as many ways as I can. Let me go and spend, an hour putting it up on multiple platforms, because that may not yield you any results. Like, yeah, okay, if you're creating an Instagram reel and it's compatible with TikTok and it might do okay, that's fabulous. But again, if your target audience is not on TikTok, then it doesn't matter because you're never going to generate any sales from that. So don't spend your time doing that activity. You're better off not repurposing your content and saving that extra hour to put towards creating more videos for Instagram or creating more static content, writing an email, do a blog post. Just because you've created something doesn't mean that you should repurpose it just because you can. And I think that's the other thing that people don't always kind of realize. They live in the, I need to do more with less. That's kind of the mentality we're in. And I so get it. I so do. But if the activity is not going to generate revenue for your business, then it is not a good activity for you to do. And I think that that's a realization that I've really had as a third-year business owner, because my first few years I was doing all of those things. And I realized that all that happened was I burnt out. I was not getting results from the activities that I was doing because I was trying to do everything inconsistently, I might add, and without a really solid plan to back it up. And it just doesn't work because you do not physically have that many hours in the day to be doing all of those things. So you have to be very choosy and conscious of what you're putting your time and energy into. Otherwise, the overwhelm feeling happens, the burnout happens, and just in general, you feel discouraged. Be like, I have been posting consistently on TikTok for 6 months now, and I have 4 followers. Like, what the heck, Brittany? Well, then it comes back to, is your target audience actually on TikTok? And if they're not, then that's why you're not getting results from it, because they're not there. So if your audience isn't like young millennials and you're not selling a product that is, like clothing or something like that, and not saying that other businesses can't be successful on TikTok, but you have to know your audience and what platform they're on. And if you're not there, it doesn't matter how many hours you spend creating content or repurposing Instagram reels to TikToks, you're not going to see the results that you're looking for. So that I think is really important. And I really wanted to drive that that point home today, is just because you can repurpose content doesn't mean that you shouldn't. So in what cases do I actually recommend you repurpose content? I think from Instagram to Facebook, absolutely 100%. Do it every time. Set it up, make it automatic. You're good to go. If your target audience is on TikTok and you want to take your Instagram reels and put them on TikTok, you can. Like I said earlier, if you're using TikTok and creating the video content and you want to put it up on Instagram, go for it. If your audience is also on YouTube, you could also take that video content and put YouTube shorts up. Doing that hopefully wouldn't be super time consuming for you. Again, know who your audience is, know where they are, and know what your goals are for social media. Are you looking to grow your email list? Are you looking to grow your revenue? What metric are you going to use to determine whether those activities are successful? And then set a timeline. Be like, okay, I'm going to be super consistent about reposting my content from Instagram to YouTube Shorts for 3 months. And be like, for a test like that, you probably should do it a little bit longer, but set it for 3 months. And then at the end of the 3 months, sit back and evaluate. Are you looking to just grow your YouTube following? And if so, how many new followers did you actually get by doing that? Are you looking to grow your email list? If so, how many people converted from YouTube over to your email list? Do you want more client leads and sales? If so, how many people actually came from YouTube? And the key thing there is that when you're doing client calls, you need to actually ask people where they found you. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to determine whether or not that activity was successful. So backing up again, short form video content does do really well on multiple platforms. So there is a few more ways that you can repurpose content that way. If you're creating more static content, again, Facebook to Instagram, always a great idea. Sometimes you can use that content on LinkedIn as well. I haven't seen very much success from LinkedIn, but again, I haven't been posting very consistently on it either, because I want to work with a different section of business owners that are on Instagram more so than LinkedIn. But you could repurpose your static content that way, and that would work. But static content really can't go on any other platforms. So if that's primarily what you do, don't bother having a TikTok account, because you're never going to have content that's actually going to translate and yield any results for you. So that's my hot take on repurposing content. You can, if you want to do this, aside from that Instagram, Facebook automated, or now the Instagram to Pinterest, if you want to be repurposing content and you want to streamline it a little bit more, then I do recommend you look into a content scheduling tool. So in the past, I've used the Meta scheduling tool, which is just for Facebook and Instagram, because that was my sole kind of platform focus. You could also look into tools like Later or Hootsuite or Buffer or something like that. I think Later is the most popular one and probably is the best option for the majority of you. They have a free plan, but it's not fabulous. You will likely have to pay for it, which is one of the reasons why I don't do it. And another reason is because the features that I'm looking for to utilize and leverage in the platform to get the best results, you can't pre-schedule and pre-plan in tools like that. So, I want to use the Reels topic tags, and I want to invite collaborators when I even posting my own content to share it from Brittany Miller Socials to the Go Get Great podcast page. You can't do that when you pre-schedule your content. So a lot of my content planning happens and I prep it all in advance. I batch create, I write my captions, And then the day of, I simply copy and paste and upload it all, and it takes about 5 minutes because I know that I need those features and I can't use them in tools like later. So again, something else to keep in mind, you want to consider what your goals and your priorities are when you're making those content posts. You can actually schedule content right in Instagram if you want to, but we're talking about repurposing content. And later is great if you want to take that Instagram reel and you want to put it up on Pinterest and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, because you can add all your accounts there. And then you basically just select which ones you want it to go to, and you put your content in once, and then it goes out to all 3, all 4, however many you're doing. It works better, I think, for static content than it does for video content, but you can use it for video content as well. So if repurposing is something that you're dead set on doing because you really feel that your target audience is on all these platforms and the content you're creating is truly compatible with the different do's and don'ts of each platform, and you're going to get results from it, then investing in a tool like Later would be really helpful for you. It's not something that works well for my business, like I just explained why, but if it works for you, then do that, because that will be faster and more efficient than manually going in and building the post in 3 or 4 different platforms just because it's a video, and it can go on 3 or 4 platforms. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you guys have any questions about repurposing your content, definitely reach out. Today, we were mainly just talking about taking existing posts and putting it onto different platforms, but there are, like I said earlier, multiple ways you can repurpose posts. And that's something that I'll talk about in another episode if you're interested, how you can take a post that did really well on Instagram, tweak it just a little bit and post it again, how soon you can post it, and all of those wonderful things. So if this is a topic you're interested in, definitely let me know, and I will focus on creating another podcast about that sooner rather than later. So thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Go Get Great podcast. I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Get Great. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks that can help you make life and business work together. If what I said resonates with you, please share it on social media, and don't forget to tag at Brittany Miller's socials so that I can celebrate you for taking those first steps towards achieving greatness. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, hard work, and a lot of spirit. So don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want. Keep striving for greatness. You get closer with every step forward, no matter how small they may seem. Until next time, go get great.